Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. So today we're going to be looking at the 2018 Senate elections 50 years ago. In fact, it wasn't 50 years ago when these last 33% of seats in the Senate were up. So we have to go all the way back to 1964, which is in fact 54 years ago, but it's close enough. So right now when we look at these results, we do see very good numbers for the Democrats compared to what we see now. The current composition is 51 seats for the Republicans and 49 for the Democrats if you count the two independents, whereas back in 1964, no independents, but 68 seats for the Democrats after this election and 32 for the GOP. Look at this map. I mean, it is a huge blue hold in a number of these races. Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi, races that are currently deemed as safe Republican in the presidential elections, Utah, Wyoming. Just looking at these races, a lot of areas that the GOP is failing to pick up or hold on to. Now, they did get one pickup, and that was from the state of California. Surprisingly enough, California was that sole Republican pickup back in 1964. And another Republican state, Vermont, and Hawaii. The Democrats safely secured in Wyoming and North Dakota, in Utah, in Mississippi, in Texas, and Oklahoma. Keep in mind, if we apply this to today's map, the Republicans would have a lot more pickups, but if we gave all the Democrats their current seats, they would have California, Hawaii, Pennsylvania, Vermont, and Delaware, which gives them a total of 5 more seats and a total of a 73 to 27 majority in the United States Senate. Now, looking at a number of these states, definitely a huge change before. Back 100 years ago, when we looked at the Senate map, it was just pretty much a flip. There was red all across from Washington finishing off in Maine, and then Democratic South, and then just very conflicting data there. It was pretty much a polar opposite in terms of how we saw this map. But now that we're looking at this map, well, Democrats from Maine to Washington, yes, and that's exactly what we're seeing here, except for Vermont, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, which are a little bit blips, but also a lot more blue in this map than what we see here. In terms of Democratic senators in states that had Democratic senators back in 1964, Texas, Mississippi, Tennessee, Wyoming, I believe Utah, and Nevada. So it's very interesting seeing these results, but it isn't too hard to see. Let me turn off my volume real quick. To see how this map came to be. I mean, under right after Kennedy, leading into Johnson era, it's very, very, very weird seeing this map now, but it also makes sense at the time in terms of a president who comes in and fills the position as someone who was just assassinated. Definitely, that political party would gain traction nationwide. Now, looking at these results, again, not applicable to today's map, but not too unbelievable for the time being and the time period that this map took place in. Now, California and Hawaii may seem like they would never be GOP states in the future, and you're probably right. But Texas and Mississippi and Tennessee and Nevada don't seem too out of question at this point. So when we look at these numbers, Utah, Wyoming probably going to remain. Oklahoma, which probably had a special election because it's not up in 2018, is still going to remain in the Republican column in future elections. But when it comes down to states like Tennessee and Texas and possibly Mississippi, most likely Nevada, these states definitely are making a little bit more of a turn. Now, in terms of incumbents, again, we only see a couple of areas where the GOP actually has incumbents in right now: Nevada, Utah, Wyoming, Oklahoma, Texas, and Mississippi, and Tennessee. Whereas the Democrats do have incumbents in Pennsylvania, Delaware, Vermont, California, and Hawaii. So it pretty much makes up for it. Now, this also could be the GOP failure to pick up seats before, because the election before this, 66 seats for the Democrats. Now, if we go over to 1970, which would be, I believe, 48 years after that, we look at the numbers there, and the Democrats go down to 53 to 45, numbers that are a little bit more believable now, but looking at the map, not so much. If we look at the areas where the GOP made gains in, Delaware, Maryland, Connecticut, 3 Democratic states, New York, 3 Democratic states, and then you add the current Democratic states, Pennsylvania, Vermont, and Hawaii, this map pretty much doesn't make sense. Now, seeing a GOP incumbent in Ohio and Tennessee, a little believable, but still, Wyoming, Utah, Texas, pretty safe in the Democratic column at this point in time. Now, it could be because of the South still remaining in its Democratic identity, and these were the last Democratic senators who were pretty popular in the states that overturned into the GOP column. But for right now, looking at these numbers, it was not too good for the GOP at that point, but it is much better now. So that's pretty much a rundown of our Senate elections. Now, in terms of contested races, I believe it'll show us the close races, if I'm not mistaken. If not, then I guess That's pretty upsetting. But when we look at these numbers, we did have some special elections in New Mexico, Oklahoma. In fact, Oklahoma actually went to the Democrats, but it wasn't too solid. I mean, a very narrow margin. Tennessee was a narrow margin. New Mexico, not so much. In terms of Arizona, which has a GOP senator, very narrow margin. Okay, very narrow margin in California. So these states definitely could have gone towards the Democratic Party. Delaware, very narrow margin there, whereas Connecticut, huge Democratic margin. Florida, huge Democratic margin. Hawaii, pretty good for the GOP there. In Indiana, better for the Democrats than in any other GOP state. Maine, safe for the Democrats. Maryland, safe for the Democrats. Massachusetts, safe. Michigan, safe. Minnesota, safe. Mississippi, unopposed, so safe. Missouri, safe. Montana, safe. Nebraska, safe for the GOP. Nevada, safe. Actually, no. Nevada was not safe. It was very narrow, 50% to 50%. Probably one of the more contested races in the state of Nevada. But right now, New Jersey, safe. New Mexico, not really safe, but a Democratic gain. New Jersey, gain. New Jersey, not a necessarily safe state, but still looking at a number of these results, pretty good for a number of these Democrats. I mean, the states like West Virginia, safe. Washington, safe. Wisconsin, pretty good. Wyoming, pretty good. Virginia, safe. It was just very interesting seeing these results from 54 years ago compared to where it is now. So, again, not much has changed on the map. I mean, overall, just a couple of states could be shaded blue and some states were shaded red. But overall, in terms of the net gain, not much has changed. So the other maps in terms of the other 66% up, that's up in other elections, definitely did change, because if you apply the map now, Democrats would still have the majority back in 1964, whereas they wouldn't now. But right now, when we look at the time era, it wasn't too unbelievable at the time, but it probably is now. So thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I will see you all tomorrow.